we are talking about how to identify your unique gifts as a coach, or what I like to call your coaching superpowers. So, when you are putting yourself out there online, it feels like there's so many other coaches doing everything, right? It's like, oh, you have this idea, it's on your heart and soul, and you want to help people, but how do you feel confident putting yourself out there when it feels like so many people are doing it all already, right? And I'm curious, for those of you watching, have you had that experience? Have you ever had the experience of like, you get all excited, you feel like you want to share with people in your coaching, and then you go online, you're scrolling, and it's like, oh my God, like the wind is taken out of your sails because it seems like there's already someone doing it all already. If so, just say yes in the chat so I know that you can see and hear me. We get some comments and engagement going here. Just um, checking out Instagram and Facebook. And so, if you've ever had that experience, then this is basically the antidote. This is the way to start to tune in and go, what really sets me apart? What makes me unique? So, Helena said, hello, I'm watching from Copenhagen, Denmark. Awesome. Welcome, Helena. Who else is tuning in today? Just send me a little, type a little comment below so I know who's watching. And then do you have a sense already of what, maybe you know what you're coaching on, if you're a coach already, or what you want to coach about? Go ahead and type that in the chat so I know kind of where you are. And we're going to dig in deeper to different ways to get clear on what really sets you apart. So this video is great for you, this training that we're going to do today, if you're experiencing imposter syndrome because you feel like everything you want to do has already been done before. If you're struggling to find your unique brand and message to really stand out from other coaches online, and if you want to feel crystal clear about your coaching superpowers so you can confidently put yourself out there. You guys, I've been there when I first started coaching. I mean, really at so many stages in the coaching journey, to be honest. It's like there's constantly that question of how do I differentiate? And I have that less and less as I go on because I feel clearer and more confident in what those gifts are. But just know that this is an evolutionary process. I often share that as like, it's not like you're going to get the light bulb moment. I mean, maybe I haven't seen this happen that often, but the light bulb moment, you get clear in a snap of I can't think of the phrase, but like a flash of lightning. You're crystal clear, and then that's what you do forever, and it never changes, right? This is an evolutionary process, meaning it's going to change and evolve over time. So I just want you to get comfortable with that idea, first of all, and know that today is like a starting point for that conversation. Dustin's tuning in from central Minnesota. Awesome. And what are you guys coaching on right now? Helena, Dustin, or what do you want to coach on? Because that'll give me a little bit of a starting point for the coaching. I make these calls really interactive. If you're on live, then we'll be doing lots of Q&A, lots of interaction in the chat. And I really encourage you to interact because that will help you really get the most out of it and get your questions answered. If you're watching the replay, you could still post your questions in the comments if you'd like, or send me a direct message if you're watching this on, Instagram or something like that, or on YouTube. Okay, so if you're watching this video, then there's something inside you that wants to be shared, right? Who has that feeling? Like, deep down you're meant to change lives, or maybe you're out there doing it already, or you could be really early on in this journey and you want to do something different, make a difference in the world, and you have a sense that it's coaching or you're already coaching. And so I want to be the catalyst to help you make that shift, to go out there and actually make those dreams a reality and not be sitting on the sidelines any longer. That is my mission. It is what I'm all about. Whether you want to coach or you want to do something else, many of our clients are coaches, which is why we tend to focus on the topic of coaching. But truly, this applies no matter what you want to do. You need to know, like, what is on your heart and soul. My belief is you came into this life with kind of a blueprint on your soul for what you are meant to do. And you have free will, of course, but that blueprint is like your most extraordinary life that you could possibly live. And my mission Our mission here at Follow Your Aliveness is to help you identify what that is and step into that fully. So that's what we're really talking about today is the first piece to really see what is that? What direction, you might be feeling that call on your heart and soul to do something, but you may not know exactly what it is. And so that's what we're really digging into here. So Catherine said, I'm in Calgary. I coach female service-based business owners on building their best business using success strategies that result in more time, more revenue, and more impact. Great. And Asha said, absolutely meant to be doing this work. Awesome. So who else? Tell me what you do in terms of coaching. And Catherine, since you have a pretty clear, so female, since you have a pretty clear idea of what you do, what would you love to get out of the call today? Like, how do you want to be even clearer on what your superpowers are within what you do? I'm curious why you're on here so I can make sure to tailor it to everyone. Dustin, I'd like to work with guys around relationship and being a better version of themselves. Okay, great. Let me see if I don't see any comments on Instagram. So great. You guys are in the right place. So let's jump in and begin. Just pull up my notes here. So the first thing I want to say is that you are 100% unique. Take that in for a moment because I say that all the time. People are like, oh, yeah, got it, right? But really take that in for a moment. Is there anyone exactly like you on the entire planet? I mean, we know that fingerprints are unique, right? Just your tip of your finger. There's in billions of people on this planet, as far as I know anyway, there's not a single other person with your exact fingerprint. Think about that. And if that's true of the tip of your finger, then let's expand that out to the rest of you. There's no one exactly like you. There are billions of people on this planet. And so when I say unique gifts, I mean unique. It doesn't mean nobody else out there is doing something similar, but it means the way that you will bring that to the world is like nobody else. And if it is what you are truly called to do, then it will connect and resonate. And if you put the energy and the action behind it, you will be successful in the end, right? You may have ups and downs, or you may have shifts and changes, but you keep moving forward and you will be successful and you will be able to change lives with that unique gift, or really gifts, because there's more than one. Or like I said, you can call this your superpowers, because I like to think about it that way, like you're a superhero in training, kind of, right? And you were maybe born with, or you developed this gift and you had no idea, and then you have to learn how to use it, right? What is it and how do you use it? Just like Spider-Man or any of them learning to use their superpowers. So that's just a fun way to think about it. So you're 100% unique. There's no one like you on the whole planet. And this is how I want you to go into this, kind of conversation of really dialing into basically taking off the comparison goggles. Okay. So if you are someone, and by the way, if you relate to this, just say comparison in the chat. I'm curious, those of you watching, do you get stuck in that comparison thing where you're like, oh, everyone's doing it already. You're scrolling on social media. You're like, this has all been done before. If that resonates with you and you've been stuck there before, just say comparison in the chat. Helena says, I'm 49. I'm a coach, light worker, healer, clairvoyant, performer, professional ballroom dancer. Amazing. Wants to coach women on getting out of their head and into their body, their intuitive dancing, meditation, and healing. But I want to figure out my program, the how, in more concrete details. Okay, great. Yeah, we're going to be doing a series of lives here over these next few weeks. Today is around your unique gifts. Next week, we're really going to dive into your niche. Then we are going to go into high value coaching packages that people want to invest in and how to charge your worth. These are all topics that I cover in much more depth in my 21-day program. I have a 21-day challenge. It's called Package Your Wisdom. And that starts on June 10th, if you're watching this live, June 10th, 2022. And so if you are curious about that program, it's $97. It's a steal of a deal. It's an incredible program. It goes really in depth into getting crystal clear on your gifts, who you serve, your packages, your pricing, the mindset piece of how do you move through the fears and doubts to really put yourself out there. And even if you're coaching already, a lot of people go through it to just what would you say? To make sure that they're crystal clear and out there with their gifts and that their packages feel right. Just that all of that is really flowing, because if any of that doesn't flow, then it's going to come across when you're having enrollment calls or you're doing your marketing. You're going to be like, oh, something doesn't quite feel right, or I don't quite feel ready. And we want to move you through that really quickly. So we have the lives going on over the next few weeks. And then if you have an interest in joining that program, like I said, package your wisdom, create your client ready coaching business in 21 days. It's $97 and it starts June 10th. Just put wisdom in the chat and we'll reach out to you and get you that link. Catherine said, when you spoke about your calling, I realized that who and what I coach is not really my calling. Ooh, so some big ahas already. I want to help women entrepreneurs have a business that brings them joy, is about their passion to help them find clarity in their journey. Catherine, that's huge. That's a big aha. So it doesn't mean you have to pivot overnight, right? It depends how far along you are. If you're at the very, very beginning and you haven't really started, then yeah, maybe you do make that shift. If you're already in motion and you have, clients, or you've been marketing yourself in one way, then maybe you start to pivot in that direction. But we have to see, what timing is going to be right for you there. Okay, great. So I only got one comparison in the chat, so I guess that means none of the rest of you are comparing yourselves to other people online, which is awesome. Great, great, great to hear that. And so how do you, if you are comparing, or even if you're not, how do you start to make that shift? I want you to take the comparison goggles off, like I said, and just go, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. From now on, from this moment forward, I am going to ignore what anyone else is doing, and I am going to tune deeply into myself to really see what wants to come through me. And the most successful people that I know, this is what they do. They might look at what other people are doing to get ideas for, like, oh, like that's an interesting marketing strategy, or like it may spark something for them, but not from a comparison place. That place is a very disempowered place. It's a low energy place. Like, just feel the feeling in your body of what it feels like to compare yourself to other people online or in general, right? It's like, ooh, like it feels like this lack feeling. It feels like I'm not good enough, right? How does it feel to you guys? Let me know in the chat. I got one more comparison. So we have some people who are dealing with this. So how does that feel in your body when you're comparing yourself? Or what kinds of thoughts does that spark for you when you are looking at what everyone else is doing? I know for me, when I was first getting started, I'm just trying to like tune back into that, or when I've had moments along the way where I like forget and I let myself get caught up in that, it's like, I'll never figure this out. Like, everyone else has it all figured out and I don't. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, who am I to do this? Those kinds of thoughts, right? So what is that for you? What kinds of thoughts or what kinds of feelings does it bring up when you're in comparison? Helena says disempowerment. Yeah. So I want you to tune into that feeling, and then I want you to imagine, put that aside for a minute. Imagine that you were the only person in the world doing what you're doing. Like, imagine it was revolutionary and people were just like so excited about it because they'd never seen anything like it before, and they're just drawn to you, drawn to your wisdom, to your magic. And how would that feel in your body? Like, you're putting yourself out there, you're completely unique, there's no one else like you. How would that feel in your body? So just type that in the chat. What's the difference? What's the difference? I want you to really tune into the feeling. So for me, when I tune into that feeling, it feels like more expansive. It feels kind of exciting, like this giddy, nervous excitement. It feels like, what else? The thoughts that I might have are like, wow, this is so needed in the world. This is so needed in the world. I'm so excited to be the person to bring this through. I'm nervous. I'm scared that, like, I don't know how it's going to come across, but like, I'm so excited that I have the privilege of being the one to share this with the world, right? So when you notice the difference in those feelings, I want you to just take on that second feeling. And even though there are other people out there doing it, here's the truth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the right people for you are going to be drawn to you. And the truth is, if it is what's closest to your heart and soul, then it is what's meant to come through you. and sitting there worrying about what everyone else is doing, if the people you admire most in the world had done that, then they would never have impacted your life in the way that they have, right? If they had sat around going like, well, there's a lot of other people doing it already, right? So notice that difference and see if you can take this on as a daily practice to stop comparing. And whenever you catch yourself there, take those comparison goggles off and put on the goggles of, or not goggles, like tune deep into yourself is probably a better way of putting it, into like what you feel deep down you are here to do. That is what we're talking about here. What do you feel deep down you're here to do? And if you don't know, that's what we're going to be sharing here in just a moment, are some ways that you can see. Okay. Helena says it feels like freedom to express myself and serve the world. I love that. Love that. So you don't have to try to be unique because you are 100% unique, as I mentioned. So there's no like trying to be something that you're not. The more you double down on your unique gifts, the more magnetic you become. You'll have more energy, you'll feel more fulfilled. I'm reading this book right now called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about your zone of genius, which a lot of people have used that terminology. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? But we're going to talk about a few different facets because there's your true zone of genius, and then there's other elements that can also make up part of what, you're unique. I almost think about it as like a puzzle. We often talk about this, like the puzzle of your life, really, or the painting of your life might even be a better way to think about it. So we're adding brush strokes, right? The ways that you want to work with people and serve people. And so these brush strokes are what we're going to be talking about today. So instead of worrying about getting it right, instead of worrying about trying to be something that you're not, think of it as these brush strokes. All right. So let's get into a few ways that you can start to see what makes you unique or what your superpowers are. The first one is by starting to pay attention to your aliveness. So this is something that we teach here in these videos and in our coaching programs, is what we call the aliveness method. It's our methodology developed by Gigi Sage, who is my mom and my mentor and business partner. She's been developing over the past 36 years, and it is a coaching method, but I tell people to think about it more like NLP or something like that. If you're familiar with NLP or hypnosis or any other technique out there, it's sort of like that. It is a methodology that can be used in coaching and can help you really be an extremely effective coach, like transform people's lives in a really profound way. It also works to transform yourself, by the way, because that's the way we teach, is in order to transform others, you have to first transform yourself. And so the aliveness method is based around aliveness. And aliveness is simply when you were a baby, you were lit up and alive, just like every baby when they're born, right? As long as they're born into a healthy environment, they're lit up, they're bright, they're alive. The light is like shining out through their eyes. They're so present. Just picture a baby, right? And then picture someone, a high school senior, and what is the difference in their vitality? You might have heard me use this example before. How do their eyes look different? How does their face look different than that happy baby? So usually people will say they're dimmer, they don't have as much light in their eyes, they don't seem as present. When you really look, you'll start to see these differences. And this happens to all of us. We get away from that happy baby who knows exactly what they want, right? If a baby's hungry, they're going to cry until they get fed, right? And then they'll stop crying. It's that simple. They know exactly what they want and they go out to get it. They have strong intent. And so your aliveness, we talk about in this method, is it's like this guide. It's this beautiful guide that you can learn to get back in touch with and start to notice shifts in your vitality. At every moment, your aliveness, your vitality is either increasing or it's decreasing. Increasing or decreasing. When it's increasing, you feel the most alive, connected, you feel the most peaceful, the most like your true self. When it's decreasing, you feel the most tired, bored, uninterested, right? So if in your work you are feeling tired, bored, drained, uninterested, then that might be a little bit of a signal. Maybe there's something that needs to shift. Now, it's not that you're going to be fully lit up and alive in every single thing you do, although over time you can start to move more in that direction. As you grow your business, you can hire more help. We have, I think, 5 full-time team members or something like that now. And so that's incredible. I get to be more and more in my zone of genius. But going back to identifying your unique gifts is using your aliveness to start to identify what are the things you're doing when you feel the most alive, when you feel the most in flow. You can ask yourself the question, what am I doing when I forget about time? Go ahead and type in the chat. I want to hear from some of you. What are you doing when you forget about time? When you feel the most peaceful, the most like yourself? Just name a few things in the chat. These are, again, paint strokes. These are clues that start to point the direction or give us little bits and pieces of what we're here to do. This gorgeous constellation. I'm going to give you so many different ways of looking at it. We've got a painting, we have a puzzle, we have a constellation, so many different ways of thinking about it. So go ahead and let me know in the chat, what are some of those things for you? And if you're watching the video on replay, you could pause the video and write. Helena, dancing, singing, meditating. Awesome. That's right in line with some of what you were saying, right? You want to help people with dancing, meditation, and healing. So that's great. Drawing. Okay. What else? Who else has some? What are you doing when you feel the most peaceful, the most like your true self? When you go into flow and you forget about time? And we teach a way in our programs of really mapping this, of tracking over, 30 days or more, what really brings you alive and what really drains your energy. So it's a really powerful practice, but this is just a good reflection. A way to begin is just to reflect on, when do you feel the most alive, the most connected, the most like yourself? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on while you guys are typing in the chat. And next up is to really look and see what are the ways that you contribute to other people. So sometimes it's hard to see our natural gifts because they come naturally to us and we don't really see the way we impact the lives of the people around us. So you can actually go out and ask people, which I highly recommend, but you might even in this moment just pause and take a few moments to think about, how have you impacted other people's lives? So I'll give you an example. And I want you guys to really share in the chat. I want to hear from you so we can make sure you're getting the clarity you're looking for today. What are you seeing, right? So for example, when I really started to think about this, like, how do I impact people's lives? I went out and I asked some people, talked to clients and things like that. And one of the biggest things I still hear again and again, is that I help people take all their million ideas and all the things on their mind, and they can talk it out. And then as they're talking, first of all, they start to see, because of the space that I create as a coach, to allow them to share in such a way that they begin to get more clarity. That's one of the skills that we teach in our coaching programs. And secondly, because of my unique genius in this arena, I have a very structured way of thinking about things, but not structure like boxing you in, structure like I just see the structure. I don't know how to describe this. So when somebody talks, I see, okay, here's everything, and then here's what to do, or here's what to focus on next, or here's how to put this into a structure or a flow. Sometimes that's like, what do I do next? Who do I want to have as a client? What are my superpowers? Whatever the topic is. Or it might be, last week I helped someone structure their book outline and their speech outline. So it can be whatever it is, but it is this genius of taking all the different pieces and putting structure to it in a way that feels really good and expansive for the other person. So I get told that this is one of my superpowers again and again and again. And so I know that that is one of my unique gifts that sets me apart. Now, I'm not a structure coach, right? That doesn't mean I organize my whole business around that, but it is something I talk about when I'm talking to people, and it's something we bring into our programs to really help you see what do you want to do? What's next? What are those next steps? How do you take those million different ideas you have and really clarify that? That's something that we really support our clients to do. And so, again, it's a brush stroke, but it's not the whole picture. Let's see. Dustin says, building from what's in my head and good conversation. What does building from what's in my head mean? Um, it's important to really identify this in a way that other people could understand it, right? Helena, when I've helped people cut through the mental and emotional clutter. Great. So how do you do that? Really dial, you guys can journal on this or whatever. What is it you're doing there? How is it you're, you know, doing, or what is it you see there when you're working with someone? Asa says, yes, recognize. I'm not sure what you're responding to there, Asa, but I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay, Sweden here, so she may be watching a little bit behind. Great. So that is the next piece, is how do you contribute to people's lives? So you can go out and ask people, or you can just reflect back on, like, what are the things that people come to you again and again to get support around, right? So write that down. What are the things that people come to you again and again for support around? What do they reflect back to you that you're brilliant at? And if you don't know, then you may need to go out and ask a few people. Ask your close friends. If you've had any clients, ask them what kind of value they got from working with you, and so on and so forth. So we've already covered a couple of really powerful ways to start to find those brushstrokes, right? Looking at, when are you the most in flow? When are you the most alive, peaceful, you feel the most like your true self? For me, that is definitely coaching, definitely being on video like this, speaking, photo shoots when I get the opportunity to be in front of the camera, which I do a lot. And what else? There's usually like 3 to 5 things for a lot of people that are like where they most go into flow. And there's this old concept I like to talk about that is, let me see if I can find the notes here. The idea of a genius. So the word genius originated in Rome, and the Romans believed that all people had a guiding spirit that attended them through their lives. Because this spirit was born with the person, it was called a genius, which means, it's from the Latin verb gignere, I don't know how to pronounce it, which means to give birth or bring forth. And it's also the root of the word generate. So a person's genius, they believed, dictated your unique personality and disposition. So if they had an outstanding talent or ability, it was believed that this was due to their genius. From there, it was a natural step forward for the word genius to be used not only of the spirit that inspired a talent, but also the talent itself. What I love about this is it really resonates for me personally. I mean, you may have a different feeling about this, but I love the feeling that what makes us the most unique and our superpowers and all this kind of stuff doesn't actually come from us at all. If you believe in any kind of higher power, if you don't, that's perfectly fine. Then you can take on whatever, frame really works for you here. But if you do, like I do, then I really believe that it comes through me from source, that it comes through me from God, spirit, the universe, and that when I'm the most in flow is when my small self, my ego, actually moves out of the way, and I am the most connected to something greater. And the things that, the circumstances, the activities that really bring that out in me are my unique gifts, right? Those are like I talked about the blueprint before. Those are the things that I came into this life to share with others. And I like to call your top kind of enliveners, we're talking about aliveness, where you're the most in flow, what brings you the most alive. In our program, we call these enliveners. And I like to think about the kind of top 5 or so that really don't change that much, like they stay pretty consistent, as your soul shine, is what I like to call it, your soul shine. So that is where you're so in your flow and in your function that your soul actually shines out through your eyes, and we can see that physiological shift. Now, there are other things that will light you up as well, but these are those things that consistently light you up again and again over time. So again, for me, coaching, speaking, being on camera, photo shoots, working with people, those are some of my soul shines, and I'm curious what they are for you. If you haven't already typed in the chat, let us know what brings you the most alive. And then we've talked about what kind of contribution, and I'd love to hear that as well. What is the contribution people say that you make to their lives? Go ahead and put that in here. Now, the next thing I want to say is that you can look to your past for clues. Now, this is a little different than like your superpowers or your zone of genius. I would say that this could be, there's a couple of different things here. Your skills can play a big role in your what you share with others, so that the skills that you've developed are different than like a natural ability that you've honed. It's like that might not be your top thing that brings you alive, but it's something that can still contribute to what you do. For example, I'm trying to think of an example for myself. Hilariously, the one that came to mind is like spreadsheets, which I don't know. I'm just gonna run with it. So spreadsheets, I like spreadsheets. I'm good at them. I don't love them. They're definitely not my zone of genius, but I learned about them in college. It's a skill set that I have. And so in some of our programs, I'll provide like spreadsheets and templates and different things that people can just fill in. And it's really nice and easy for them. And they can see all their, numbers or whatever it is right there on that spreadsheet. So even though like that's not my top joy in life. It's not maybe my superpower, but it is a skill that I have that contributes to what I do. So I want you to think about what are some of the skills that you have as well that contribute to what you that may be able to contribute to what you do. Maybe you speak different languages or whatever it might be. So Asa says life coaching and done marketing coaching. Okay. Helena, I love that expression, soulshine. Thank you. Thank you. So by now you should be starting to get some little bits and pieces. Now, there's only so much we can do in 30 minutes, but I want you to start thinking about yourself as like an investigator, putting on and we're not done yet, so don't leave. There's a few more things I want to share, but think of yourself as like Sherlock Holmes, right? Put on your like Sherlock Holmes investigator hat. I don't know, I have hats and goggles and everything today, but put on your investigator hat and you're going to start to explore what are your unique gifts using some of these different lenses. Now, the other thing from your past you can look at is what are the challenges or the things that you struggled with in the past that you now, maybe have some wisdom or learned experience in that area that you want to share with others. That is where I find most people go when it comes to coaching. They're like, well, I struggled with this and I overcame it, and that's what I'm going to help people with. And that's great. It can be one piece, but I don't know that that is where I would put the majority of your focus necessarily. You can be really naturally gifted at something and it can light you up and bring you alive, even if you never struggled with it, right? I happen to be a really strong writer, and I kind of have been that way as long as I can remember. And my whole first career was around writing and messaging. And even now as a coach, that's a lot of what I help my clients do, is get really crystal clear on their unique message. And so I use these skills, but that's not necessarily something that I struggled with before, right? So you don't have to focus on something that you struggled with necessarily, but it can be interesting to look back at what some of those elements were and maybe they will influence. But here's the key, you guys. I want you to really think about this. Whatever you go out to do, whatever you go out to offer, is you want it to light you up. And if you're not sure if it lights you up, then that's where I highly recommend coming into Package Your Wisdom, getting that support, going through the structured program. We do live like office hours calls in that program, so you can actually get on with me live in a small group setting, and I will do like coaching with you guys. So I will be able to see you on Zoom, reflect back to you, where do I see lights? So if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling like, you've done some of this process, but something's still not lining up, it's still not feeling clear, then that's an incredible opportunity to get on, and for like a steal of a deal, right? I mean, less than we would spend on maybe what you would spend on like a pair of shoes or something like that, depending on your spending habits. You get this 21-day program. You get, I think it's like 3 live small group coaching calls with me. You get a one-on-one session with one of our team members at the end to really help you like look at everything you've created and get clear on your next steps. I mean, it is like so much value. So again, if you're curious about that, just type wisdom in the chat and we'll make sure to get that to you. But make sure that you friend requested me if you are on Facebook, because I need to be able to send you a message. Otherwise you won't see it. And if you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram, make sure to direct message me, ideally on Instagram, at McKenna Sage, MakenaSage, and then just say, hey, I'm curious about Package Your Wisdom, and I will send you the details. So that is an incredible program to really help you move through this whole process and get the coaching. But going back to that's not something that I struggled with. It just happens to be something that I was naturally good at, and I honed that skill. And whatever you do, you want it to bring you alive. A lot of the times I see people get into something out of their heads, out of what they think they should be doing, and then they get a few steps down the road and they're like, ugh, I don't really want to do this. For example, one of our clients was focused around supporting women who had gone through a divorce, because she went through a divorce, she went through the struggles around that, and she was like, okay, that's who I'm going to coach, right? Before she came in and worked with us, that was her target market. And as she started working with us, she saw like that kind of came out of like her pain, and it didn't really feel good to her. Like it's, some people get through their pains or their challenges and they're like, they're so on a mission. They're like, this is what I want to help people with. They're lit up about it. They're excited, right? But that wasn't what it was like for her. She was like, ugh, I just feel heavy when I talk to these women. I feel like da 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 da, right? And we said, well, that's interesting, right? We want whatever you do to really fit and align and be something that is going to bring out the best in you. That's what we're really talking about here with your unique gifts and your superpowers, is bringing out the best in you. So I'm going to check out a couple of the comments before I continue, so I can make sure. And if you guys have questions, like I know, who was it before? I had a question. Catherine said, I feel like my content is good to get to my clients to a business about passion, clarity, but I think I need to sell or talk about it differently. So Catherine, if you're still around, are you getting some clarity around that? Or do you still have questions? Type them in the chat. And then let me just see who else has typed some questions. Dustin says, people I have worked with have always asked if I were a teacher or that I should be a teacher of some type. Okay, so that's great. So people are telling you then that you have a great way of teaching, of sharing information. I know you love podcasts, Dustin. I think I remember that. That always comes to mind for me, for you, for some reason. Like maybe you need to start a podcast. Helena, I found to be too heavy for me, going back again and again to things I've struggled with and learned from. So I ended up deciding to look away from those things because it will come out of my former strong pains. Yeah, so it sounds like you have already gone through that process of really seeing like it's not necessarily now. There might be wisdom you gain from some of those experiences that you still use in what you do, but it doesn't mean that has to be the focus. So I love that you already had that aha moment. Who else? What questions do you have to really feel like, I want you to walk away feeling like you have at least that next piece or that next paint stroke that's going to support you to really see how are you uniquely meant to serve others. What has been maybe a biggest aha so far? What's been a biggest aha so far? I'm just going to look through my notes, see what else. Another thing that I often say is just start coaching, like just start working with people, because when you get out there and start practicing, you're going to get a reflection back of what you help people with. And you're also going to see, if you are newer to coaching, maybe where the gaps are, where things aren't really working. And that is where getting support is so, so important. So on the business side, we have the Package Your Wisdom coming up. I think that's a really great starting point for most of you. And that way you also get a sense for us and what we do and how we might be able to support you. We also have a full-scale coaching certification called Aliveness Mastery. And that is really supports you on, several different levels. It's really about, first of all, transforming yourself so you can go out and transform others and really apply the aliveness method to your life and to your business. And we support you on the business side of things. We support you on the coaching techniques and really feeling confident in your ability to change lives, to hold that space for other people. And that really leads to more clients coming to work with you, more repeat clients coming back to work with you again and again, more people referring their friends, which is always great. And then self-mastery is a huge piece, which is what I talk about in terms of transforming yourself, which is in order to create this space of transformation for others, you need to be on that journey. So you're teaching and coaching from an embodied place, not just from something you learned or a technique, right? Let's see. So, I don't see any questions, which is amazing. So, what was some of your biggest takeaways then from the call today? Just share that with me in the chat. Now, what's one thing, this is for you, not for me. I mean, I love to hear them too, but it's really important that you think about what are you going to take action on here? Destin says, I would love to do a podcast. I'm just not sure about the confidence to put myself out there like that and not sure where my content would come from. I don't know, Destin. If it lights you up, if you have energy around it, then I think it would be a worthy thing to go for, right? To just map it out, try it, bring guests on. You don't have to be the one to come up with the content, right? You have so many people you follow, I know, in the relationship space, or people who have their own podcasts or things like that. And you could go out there. I just heard about a great website called Podmatch, Podmatch, Podmatch. And you can put yourself on there as either as a guest or as a podcast host to get people to come on as your guest. So I don't know. There's all kinds of ways you could do it. It just always pops into my head for you. So I thought I'd throw it out there. Because if you are, again, you're a great teacher, then you can kind of be teaching through your interviewing, but you're also sharing little tidbits of yours, or you're doing some episodes that are tidbits of yours. So yeah, I just had to throw it out there because I've had that thought for you before. Okay, no one's sharing takeaways. There might be a delay here. Sometimes there is. So I want you to really think about what are you going to go out and apply, and what was your biggest aha from today. So lastly, before we wrap up, is to share that again, Package Your Wisdom starts on June 10th. And I think Helena, was it you that said you wanted the info? Yeah. Make sure that you friend requested me, Elena, or Helena, or that we're already friends. I think we are. Just to make sure that I can send you that information. Okay, everyone, that's really it for today. I want you to reflect, pause the video if you are watching the replay, if you didn't stop and really do the reflection exercises. You guys, there's one of my coaches calls it infobesity. There's such a trend of just taking in information, but not actually applying it. And I want you to be aware with yourself, is that something you're doing? Are you just coming on these lives or going on, listening to a bunch of podcasts, watching a bunch of other people's content, and then not actually applying it? So if that is true for you, then I want you to stop right after you watch this video and go back through the questions that I talked about. If you apply these, you will start to see some things. I mean, I love that, was it Catherine had an aha moment within the first 5 minutes, right? Of going like, wait a second, I'm doing this, but it's not actually what I love to do the most. Here's what I would love to be doing. That's a huge aha. That's a business changing, life changing aha. And so I want you to really go through the questions, the reflections that we talked about, and start paying attention to those over the coming days and weeks. Next week, we will be back with how to find the niche you're most lit up to serve, because this is really the next piece, is that, if you get clear on what your superpowers are, you start to see that, then you need to see, who do you want to help? Like, who are you most excited and inspired? Again, not just from your head, but who are you most excited and inspired to support as a coach? And that way you can know how to market yourself, how to put yourself out there. Basically, the intersection between your unique gifts and who you want to serve is your message, right? It is how you share what you do with the world. So that we want to get you crystal clear on. And we're basically going through a process here, which is similar to what we go through in Package Your Wisdom, but we go much more in depth there. We have, I think, like 30 something pages of worksheets in that program. And they're super fun. And like I said, the live calls, the live support. So it's really, really incredible. Helena, there were many great points here, but my greatest takeaway was to identify my soul shine and go out there and do the things I love and get reflections on what I'm teaching and fill in the gaps along the way. Yes, I would say, Helena, that is the starting point. It is a starting point. It is awesome to identify that. And there will be things in the earlier stages of your business that you have to do that maybe aren't your soul shine or don't bring you fully alive. In terms of your coaching and what you focus on, I definitely think going there and making sure there's a market, though, for what you want to offer. So if you start putting yourself out there and sharing, and you're talking to tons of people and you're having sales calls, Well, there's different ways of looking at this. There can be different things. If it works, amazing. If it's not working, then that's where we really need to identify where are the gaps. This is something I talk about a lot. Is the gap that it's not the right focus or the right market? Is it that, there's a different way you need to message it somehow to really connect to those people you want to serve? Or is it something in your own like skill set? For example, sales is a missing piece for many people. They don't actually know how to have those authentic conversations with people that have them say yes to working with them. And so a lot of times people will come to me and they'll be like, I don't think my message is right, or I don't think this or that. And it turns out that they actually don't have any training in sales and that they're having all these conversations and they're not actually leading anywhere. So I think that's an awesome starting point, Helena. And then it's really to see from here, what are those next steps in terms of, like you said, filling in the gaps. Christine, best certification to make money helping people become fearless. It's awesome. Yeah, Christine is one of our graduates. She's incredible, an amazing therapist who came in and went through Aliveness Mastery to launch her coaching business. And it just had this incredible ripple effect. If you're in our Facebook group, in fact, I just posted her like student success story a few days ago. I highly recommend going and watching it. It had this incredible ripple effect on her daughter, on her, just so many different areas of her life, her confidence. And so she has an incredible story, very, very inspirational. Asa singing, dancing. Okay, Asa is, I think, on the replay, so she's a little behind. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week. If you are curious about Package Your Wisdom, type wisdom in the chat. Make sure that you have a friend requested me so that we can send you that info. Okay, see you all next week. Bye-bye.